Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of K9s Talking Sets. I'm your host, as usual, Cameron Ford, and I am out here not in Set City, but in Dun. How do you say it?
Dundalk.
Dundalk, Canada, outside of Toronto, and it's like a major metropolitan area of Canada, right?
Yeah, basically, Toronto is about an hour and 20 minutes away, and no one from Toronto knows where Dundalk is.
Yeah. So I decided what I wanted to do was have another canine trainer jam session. And because we had a really good one before, I want to bring back some people I've had already on this podcast just individually, but now all together, just to have a normal conversation as trainers, like what we deal with, what we go through, just so other people who are kind of like in our positions or maybe coming up through the dog training world can realize they're not alone in what they go through and the stuff that we see and deal with and what we like, what we struggle with, just to be real.
Yeah.
So thank you guys, first of all, for coming on and doing this, especially after we did training all day long. So I know how that goes. But first, Michael Nezbeth, welcome. Carlos Ramirez, welcome. And Michael Lilly, welcome back on the show. So, like I said, I'll start off with, for me, I've learned to change. I've made plenty of mistakes in, growing up as a trainer and both personally and then professionally, and then just the growth as a human being. But I think it's important to share some of those things. And one of the first things is, for me, is learning how to share a message, but do so with sometimes without the emotion that I get or the passion, and that's easier said than done sometimes. How do you guys relate to that? How do you guys go through that? Because what's cool about this episode is it's not just about detection. You guys do detection, but you guys also do the bite work, the tracking. We got different disciplines here that we kind of all share. But I don't care. Hey, whoever wants to kind of, talk first, I'll let you guys go with it. But how do you manage your passion mixed in with your message and your lessons?
Yeah, since we're talking about passion, I think that we should probably let Carlos start off with this. He's very passionate. So.
Yeah. No, so for me, first, I think you need to figure out what you're trying to accomplish, right? Are you trying to teach? Are you trying to prove that you know more than someone else? Like, what is the intent behind what you're trying to do? A lot of times we think we're trying to teach, but I'm really saying my method is better than yours.
Yeah.
Right. So if you really want to help, that's going to come with people are going to criticize your method and you have to take it in the shit and be quiet and find a different way to tell, no, it might be a better idea. Right. But I think that the intent is the real truth behind it. And I have been on both sides. Like I had the bad intent before when, when I was getting started, I had a lot to prove. When I tried to tell somebody, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It was not wrong. It was just wrong for that dog, whatever circumstance, right? But it was because it was not based on the right intention. It was not to teach.
Yeah.
It was to confirm that I know what I know or to prove a point. And that's wrong, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, my start was with trainers that just said, this is it. I don't know why. You shouldn't be asking me why. And that's why a lot of, like, we teach together. We try to start off with, we're not saying our way is the only way. We're saying there's tools that need to be in your toolbox, and we're just offering some of ours because we've done it wrong and we've made these mistakes and learned from those mistakes. And so you don't have to go through that as a handler. We're giving off how we've messed up.
Yeah. And do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, I would say I think like one of the I think commonalities between all of us is that ultimately, like, we are passionate about what we're doing. We care about the best interests of the dogs, the handlers that we're working with, whether it's Leo, military, or civilian. But the other commonality is that we're not married to any of these ideas, right? We say, hey, and literally every seminar I've been to and started or I've been around, there's a kind of common underlying theme, and it's like, hey, this is the best information that I have available to me right now.
Yeah.
I hope it a year from now, in 2 years, I have better information. My job is just to kind of be a vessel and pass on what I have. It doesn't mean it's right. It probably is wrong. What I'm telling you right now is probably wrong. And the future me would be like, why were we doing it that way? This could be done better. But I think it's the same for all of us. You know, like I've trained with you quite a few times with all of us. And every time we get together, I notice like small nuance things. That, hey, Cameron's doing this differently. Mike's doing this different. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely stealing that from Carlos. And continuing to grow. I think within itself, is as long as you harness kind of the passion in that way,
Right.
It makes for better dogs, better people, and it's not so much about the information, but how that information is being delivered.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did it today. So Michael and I, the second we got done with our class, we looked over and Mike wasn't done tracking.
Yeah.
He said, like, let's go over there and sit and listen to Mike.
Yeah.
And we just went and sat down because I want to learn what he's saying. So one, if it's something I'm doing wrong, I want to stop and fix it. And two, so I can learn it, so I can teach it to other people as well to keep helping more people.
Yeah.
None of the ideas we have are mine.
Right.
Nothing of what I teach is mine. Is I learn it from him, I learn it from you. We all work together, and then I make it my flavor.
Sure.
I look something in there to make it mine and teach it. And I tell people, hey, I learned this from Mike Lilly.
Yeah.
I learned this from Mike Nezbeth.
Yeah.
I give everyone the source of where I got it. So you hear it my way, and then go to the source. Ask him too.
That's key, right? It's not. There's nothing new under the sun. So like taking every time that I have the ability to give credit to where I've gotten the information from. Now, of course, there's going to be slip ups or man, there's so much information that you can even forget who the exact source came from. But like kind of paying homage and saying, hey, this is how Mike Lilly showed me how to do this tracking thing. I changed this for these dogs, and we all know that we have to adjust the systems in play for each animal in front of us. Right?
No, that's an excellent point, because just like you said, there's so many things that we've digested or absorbed from other really good trainers. And it's also critically important to, when we can, share that source, because if you look at anything that's research wise, what do they always share? The source. There's always a source code or source redo file or whatever it came from, like the citing sources, I should say. But we're also human, and like you said, there's stuff we forget, and I know I've been guilty of that myself. But and I like your analogy there. We all know how to cook spaghetti, right? Nothing about it was original, but what little tweaks that you made to your sauce, or like how you cook your noodles, or
mine's a little more spicy.
Yeah, we've heard about that. But and that's what makes it our own. It doesn't make the spaghetti any less, or because somebody else did it. We have to find what works, and I can definitely, and I relate this even more nowadays, is how I convey the message, but so I can connect to more people than, like you said, shutting them down because I wanted to prove a point. Or because I did exactly, like you said, the same thing, like how I felt. Like Carlos, what you mentioned was, in my early years, at least the first 10 years or so, I wanted to prove myself. So how did I prove myself? By showing all the ones that,
Like comparing myself to others.
Well,
and that's not the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, and to even kind of dovetail on what you're saying, like me and Carlos are kind of in a unique position in that, like, we have 0 years of law enforcement experience, 0 years in the military, any of that. So very early on, I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of what I did was ego driven, but ego in the sense of like, let me prove to these people that I have some value, right? Like, let me prove to you that there is something, because I don't have the resume that says I did this many tours overseas, or I've handled a dog in that way. So absolutely. And I think, to be honest with you, I think a little bit of ego is also okay. I don't think that it needs to be. I think that it's competitive. I'm competitive with Carlos. Sure. When we're working dogs and I'm tired and I look up and Carlos is working another dog, and I'm not that tired anymore. So like,
well, it takes an edge to get in front of a large group. That's, especially like law enforcement, there's such that type A already. And as a handler, there's a level of, I'm pretty set in what I've been taught, that, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to change that. So I think that when we present it, if we present it in a manner of, this is just a thing for you to try to utilize when you have difficulty, because if you present it in the, like you say, like a challenging way, they're going to turn off.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, if it's like do it like this, like you can't shove it down their throat.
Exactly.
You have to let them
Yeah.
digest it.
And I have people come to the kennel and we'll be training, and then one of the other handlers will be like, "Are you going to help them?" And always I'm like, "They haven't asked."
Yeah.
Because the second you say, "Hey, you can do this like that, and it would make that better," most of the time they don't want to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
It
That's
just
actually
shuts off.
how I was able to get into law enforcement at the very beginning, was being there, knowing that some of the things that I was looking at were not right,
Yeah.
but being quiet, waiting for when I was given an opportunity
Yeah.
to, in the shape of, hey,
Yeah.
jump in the suit and get in here and help us, or what do you think of this, right?
Yeah.
Whichever way it came,
Yeah.
whenever I was given my chance, it was never like, well, what you did was wrong.
Yeah.
It was more of, I have a different way. Do you mind if we give it a shot?
Right.
Then when you get that shot, you better take it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
It's
That's all in how that message is delivered.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like I said, when it comes from a place like all of us truthfully want to help,
Mhm.
like we say that at every one of where we teach together, we are really here to try to help. We're not here to say what we teach is cool and you should do what we say to do. It's really from a point, because I've been that handler that had no help, that was being told, don't ask questions, just keep doing this. And when the streets kept kicking my butt, I was like, man, something's got to change. So I've been where some of those guys are. And when you're offering it from a good place,
Mhm.
I think it shows. Yeah, it comes off that way.
And what you guys do with K9s United is putting a lot of trainers together, which, like you said,
Right.
you have to put the egos aside, which is, it started off with a good foundation. You guys all knew each other. So you had a good foundation. There was comfortability there, which was fantastic. And then now it flows. And it's fun sometimes, in a sense, to watch when others try to emulate a system like that works, and they want to work with other groups, but they have to do what you guys did and overcome. It isn't an image about me personally. It's our goal and objective to educate those. Yeah.
Man,
That-
when you work with a group like that,
Yeah.
people don't understand how much give and take there
Oh
is.
boy.
And we're not just talking about financially. That's a whole other podcast we can do about that.
Yeah.
But it's about personality wise,
Yeah.
training methods. How many times you do not like how something is being ran, but it's not your place. Shut up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the whole K9s United team is we have a good dynamic going, and that's the thing. Like people don't see, they see how it works, right?
Yeah.
But they don't see all the things that individually we have to, hey, let it go, be okay. Let's work together. It's always more important than doing it your way.
Yeah, I think what's unique about like the instructor side of K9s United is that before K9s United was even a concept, all of us were already friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we've already done work together. We know, hey, this is for like at the seminars, people have tracking questions.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel that for a lot, I have a lot to offer for tracking answers. But why take my tracking answer when we have the tracking
Yeah.
expert on the team, right?
Yep.
In my, he'll never call himself that. But
Yeah.
I'll call him that, right? Why? Definitely, if you ask me or Carlos like some tactics questions, hey, maybe I play Call of Duty once or twice. It's something to do, but we have Gooseby.
Yes.
So like, there's all these different like
Uh-huh.
you know experts in their field that
Yeah.
complement one another, and we can pass the buck. Hey, you have track. Hey, Mike, can you talk to them about tracking? Yeah.
And that says a lot about all of you guys individually, is that you can be humble enough to share your point of view or pass it on to somebody else, versus trying to take or put the limelight on yourself as the trainer. You can say, hey, look, I'm a foot doctor. You should talk to the heart surgeon.
Yeah.
Carlos is my heart surgeon right now.
Yeah.
So go talk to them.
Yeah.
Because we all know in the dog world, there's tons of little nuances and specialties to
Right.
really, I mean, that was for me, as you guys know, when my time ended in the Navy SEALs, I could have stayed in the tactical world if I wanted to. I left one of the best programs in the world, and I could have said, you know what, I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon and do all my cool guy stuff that I learned. And I said, I just want to do detection because I saw there was an opening or a hole in the educational aspect. And then mixed with my personal geeky side of dog stuff, I was like, that works. But because there's so many different nuances in the dog world, I didn't have to stay pigeonholed in a certain area. I could, and I try to share with trainers, growing means being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
Adopting things that you don't normally do, try to learn them, get good at them, humble yourself. Like the biggest journey for me in the recent years was learning the science stuff.
Mhm.
We know our dog world kind of hates science in some ways, not all the ways, but the generations in front of us didn't have the science available to them, so they shied away from it,
Mhm.
because it wasn't there. And what little
almost also kind of was
Right.
like
what against,
Yeah.
when you science people do science stuff, and
Yeah.
dog people do dog stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
they always try to segregate and separate it.
Yeah.
And we had, of course, now have way more available to us. There's much more information. The science world and the dog world are coming together way more than they ever did before. So that's been a big help, but it also meant for me I had to get really comfortable being in environments with people that I knew were way smarter than me. And I'm trying to hold myself in a conversation with them, knowing that I'm treading water. I'm like, I can say one thing and be like an idiot if I felt that way, or, so it was humbling, but I enjoyed as a trainer now, those moments where I got to be home.
Yeah.
And I got to take myself down numerous pegs because it's natural. Like you said, we are A-type personalities in the field, especially when you're working with the cops and the military and so forth. You got to be able to hold your own.
Right.
So, but then there's that balance of how far do I take it? And one of you guys said it too. I don't want to turn them off. And that's been my biggest lesson recently. As hard as I've been sometimes with calling out the errors within our industry, trying to find a way, because I came from a different day and age where it was about sometimes the only way to get their attention was by making them basically look stupid or feel it.
Yeah.
But I also realized that wasn't the best way, because then they weren't willing to listen anymore,
Right.
because they felt so shut down
Right.
that now I lost my opportunity to let them learn from me, versus now what I try to do is let them come to the realization themselves.
Right.
Just kind of point like, here's the road a little bit. Tell me what you see.
A little self-discovery.
Yes.
Reshaping it
Yeah.
on there, Kim.
Yeah, exactly. So
And if that could be like like we say it all the time, and we've been places where we've had those dudes in the back, arms crossed, like glaring through us. And some of those places, those guys have come to us and been like, we realize we're not where we thought we were. We realize we weren't this top level, that there's way more out there. And man, we gave those guys crazy accolades, because that doesn't happen.
yeah,
Like that is probably the worst thing, in my opinion, in the industry. Is there's some trainer, some supervisor somewhere that is closed off to everything, doesn't allow those handlers to go anywhere. And man, it can kill units.
Oh,
with
for
those
sure.
vibes, man.
And for us, like all of us right here, we go all over the nation.
Yeah.
And that's the different too. It's a different approach everywhere you go.
Right.
With the way we approach the departments. We were just working with a unit like we were talking about earlier. There's a captain in a zero turn mowing around the department. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Right?
We literally stopped him.
Like,
Wait a minute.
You're the captain, right? Like I met you yesterday, right? And he's like, yeah, I just do anything to be out of the office.
Yeah.
You don't see that many places, right? With the same way, the way you approach those guys is completely different, because to some of them, you can approach them with a, hey, let's go to admin and let's try to change things. We have also been in departments that we try to change the department and handler gets fired.
yeah,
Yes.
You know what I mean? So for us, the way we approach things to try to help, it also has to be tactically enough that you're not getting someone in trouble.
yeah.
Because I've seen it, like personally, from things that we have done with the best intentions to help. And the way I think helping is, hopefully we can keep this dude alive, because his dog is not going to help him.
Yeah.
Right. And then we find out later the guy got fired.
We've had guys get
And they
kicked out
gave
of
the
the
dog to a different hand.
Yeah.
So different handlers.
We've had
Why?
guys get kicked out of units simply for being at our seminar.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's something that has to change.
yeah, for sure.
It can't be
So-
that way.
No, and that's been a bigger struggle too, is, the profession. If we're looking at, let's say, the law enforcement sector only for the moment, has changed a lot. Like in my day, somebody had to die or retire to get into K9.
Oh yeah.
And now statistically, looking at the records keeping, the software like Bob and Andrew Wyman have, the average police K9 today is worked by 2 to 3 handlers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know you guys have seen it in person,
Yeah.
but it's a statistical fact now. So this means that this dog has to bounce frequently from handler to handler, be so malleable as a personality, but yet so strong to handle the type of training that this poor dog has to go through
Right.
and withstand. That's a whole different dynamic than the trainers that were in front of us.
Yeah, because we know even people that train very familiar, like we train alike.
Yeah.
There are such nuanced things that happen from me and Carlos and Mike and you that even if we're like, hey, we're going to train the exact same system with this dog, but different handling times,
Yeah.
bro, it's totally different
Yeah.
communication styles, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Timing, everything that comes into
Everything.
play there is such a. So we'll go around the table. I'll start with you, Mike. Is say Mike Lilly, so that Mike. There's too many mics at the table. With what is something that you have grown as a trainer, something like a training technique, something that changed or you've adapted to, whatever you want to call the term, that's made a difference for you in the past 5 years, whatever it is, like being more flexible on something, being, a certain technique that resonated with you. What's been something for you over the past, say, 5-10 years?
Yeah, I teach so many places with tracking that I'll keep it to that. And with that was changing the way I was teaching dogs in my unit or dogs that I was training. Getting busier with seminars changed how I do it.
Yeah.
Because the way I was teaching dogs in my unit or dogs that I was training for tracking, I brought to the first seminar that I ever went to for K9s United, and I'm sitting there with a food bowl and a washer and a nail with dogs that have multiple bites, aren't on an existential reward system, don't know what a marker is, and they're trying to hurt me. Those guys, those poor guys, I feel so bad. They left really with nothing.
Yeah.
And I went home and said, I can't do this way. And so I really went to the drawing board and tried to figure out the best way to bring something to the table at a 2, 3, 4 day seminar where handlers actually leave with viable tools to take back. And so that changed. I mean, it flipped the way I was doing stuff on its head. And I think so far it's went well. And it gives me a good feeling when, like today, there was 2 dogs that I worked over a year ago. One was very young, one was very old school, and today both of them just rocked it.
Nice.
And so that shows that these guys are taking these bits back and implementing it. So yeah, that changed a lot, was teaching these seminars and having to say, okay, we've got to provide something in a short amount of time that's viable.
Yeah, that's tough. What about for you, Carlos?
Man, it's hard because I feel like in the past 5 years, I'm a completely new trainer.
Yeah.
Like it's such a long time now. I'm literally sitting here while he's talking. I'm like, I'm glad I got time to think about this. Because,
keep talking.
yeah. I'm glad I got time to think about this because, man, it will be easier to say the things that actually do the same.
Yeah.
Because I have changed from the way I do tracking. Like I think we learned it at the same time from Big Stall, right? At the same time in that seminar. That's completely different. And now that the last couple of months, I feel like that you've been changing your stuff. It's affecting how we do our own stuff because we are around you so much.
Yeah.
Even meeting you after we knew each other from way back, anything. But when we decided to start taking me specifically,
How long ago?
not falling fast.
He almost did. He almost did.
But back then we had a different relationship where I started taking more of a trainer role, like teaching, and you came around with all this new information, right? All of that. These guys in Michael's troubleshooting and the way he helped me understand, like learning theories, how we apply it to what we were maybe already doing. But he was like, oh, that's what we're doing. This is how we explain it, right? Like, and like he said earlier, I copy so much of what they do because we do it the same, but we just steal that little bit from each other. So it's hard to pinpoint something different, but I think the best thing would be is how I perceive information.
Okay.
That's probably what I have changed the most. Like before, I wanted very sterile information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the more you do it, the more there's some feel to something. So
Yeah.
you can just gotta go out there and do it, right? It's not gonna be sterile information. It's not gonna be this digested filter thing when you go step by step and you get this result. Just go try it and make it your own. I was telling that to some people I was teaching today. There was a lady that asked us, "Hey, I'm having some issues in the soup," and I told her, "We can tell you the basics of it, but you're like 5'6". I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
Right? Like, I will never be able to give you my play-by-play, but we'll find another person that's about your height. You know what I mean? But it's kind of the same thing, where the way I perceive information is completely different. Now I'm more okay with, I don't understand 100% of it, but let me go give it a shot.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's not just because it might be wrong. It's because this one dog might need it.
Right.
So even if I can use it today, let me put it away in my cabinet
The
of tools, the toolbox. Because I heard you say it and I stole it. You said it yesterday and I used it today.
Yeah.
There's things when I was back in Tom Rose, back in the day,
Yeah.
that I swore 2 years later, I'll never try
right.
to do that again.
And then you get that dog.
And I got that dog that brought me right back to Tom Rose, right? And
Yeah.
guess what?
I got something for
Yeah,
this.
and guess what? It worked.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So you get to those moments when you realize the techniques change and they will continue to change. But the way I see them and the way I perceive information, I can change that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you an analogy, but then I guess Mike more time to think of
Thank
this.
you.
Yes, but so the analogy I use now is, so when you're, let's say 18, 20 years old, you move out on your own, your first time, like what's an apartment or whatever it is. You get that, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you get that toolbox. You get that all-in-one toolbox. It's just a plastic thing with a hammer,
Yeah.
a screwdriver, some socket sets. And, you're like, I got what I need. I can do a lot with this, at least enough to survive. But all of us know that old man in the neighborhood whose garage is filled
Yeah.
with tools.
Yeah.
Doesn't use, let's say, 50% of them.
Yeah.
But whenever that issue comes up or that thing exists,
Anyone that comes around and asks.
you go to him and you'll say, "Hey, I can't, I'm struggling with this thing in my house. I'm trying to fix this thing. Hold on a second." Walks over to whatever drawer, pulls it out and goes, "Use this." That to me is that age and wisdom. And I used this analogy on a previous podcast with Jens Frank, and we were laughing about that shows our age now. Are we reaching the point, and you guys we're all getting there, that we're starting to become
for yourself.
as we're reaching where we have more tools.
Yeah.
And we go back to tools that we might not
Mhm.
have used.
Yep.
And I shared that today in my lecture was, as you guys know, I teach heavily delayed conditioning for teaching the odor.
Mhm.
It is the most clear way, but it doesn't mean I won't use simultaneous conditioning when I need to.
Right.
And there was a dog recently that we had got from another trainer. And the only thing because this dog had been exposed previously to the simultaneous part, the pairing. And instead of trying to, like my trainer, Natalie, I respected her wanting to stick to those systems she knows and she's used to. And she knew as a trainer, she could get the dog to understand the delayed conditioning. But I also knew I wanted her to consider, and she did, which was, let's speak her language at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She wants some simultaneous conditioning. So let's not put the ball with the odor. Let's put maybe a piece of the ball with the odor, at least a few reps, just to get her to go, something she's familiar with. This is what we want. This is what we'll reinforce, and we'll quickly remove it. Whereas the old version, when I used to use only simultaneous conditioning, I would have paired it for a while, popped it up. I would have done whatever I did. But instead of being so rigid in my evolution, I'm like, why would I ever go back to something I did before because of my ego?
Yeah.
I said, in this case, let's work what's best for the dog for that short period of time, whatever it is, and then adapt.
Yeah.
And that got the job done. And it showed, it was as hard as it was for me, as I go around the country and I'm preaching all these things, that I'm also willing, but I also share that now.
Camera's like, hey, Natalie, maybe turn the camera off.
Hold on. We're going to do something. Yeah. So that was one of those things where, for that analogy, which you guys can share all you want, because it when you say that analogy, for most people, they all know that old man. They
Yeah.
all know that person in their neighborhood
Yeah.
whose garage is filled with every tool imaginable.
We're talking about pan now.
What's that?
It's that,
Yeah.
I'm not calling you old.
I'm just a toolbox.
He has a lot of tools in toolbox there. Yes.
But that
So-
way you don't say, because like what I don't want to say is forget every BS thing
Correct.
you've been taught.
Mhm.
Because I was taught BS stuff. And like you said, there's that, you'll get that one dog that comes through your kennel where you're like, why aren't you picking up on this super cool stuff that I use now? And then you go into that bottom drawer that you don't want to open, that you said you'd never open it again, and you drag it out.
Sure.
It works.
Yep.
That's for sure.
And I think it also helps with like sometimes there's like in dog training, there's like the new sexy way of
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
things. And and a lot of times those new sexy ways of doing things are effective ways of doing things.
Yeah.
But I think people quickly, and I've been a victim of this as well, like I'll quickly forget all the other hundreds of thousands of reps of
Yeah.
doing it a different way that have been successful
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that comes
Yeah.
out.
And a lot of the cool, sexy new stuff has just been relabeled, and it's
Yeah.
something that was
Yeah.
being
Oh,
done already, but it's got a super cool new sticker on it.
Yeah, I can easily say I've now been around long enough to see certain things recycle themselves.
Hey, yeah, we saw you a few years ago.
Yeah.
Back
It's-
again.
Yeah.
Well, I'll use the bike table. So look at the evolution of the bike table, for example. You guys have obviously seen the older one, which used to be that round table,
Mhm.
and the whole design back then was to give the dog no escape, put all the pressure on it, and then its reaction would bite you with some basic kind of, mostly it was
Yeah.
fear-based, right?
Mhm.
So then the method, everybody went away from that, said stay away from tables. Anybody who uses bike tables is doing it wrong. And in that particular way, based off of fear, okay, I agree with that. What was cool all of a sudden was when it was brought back, but turned into utilized in a Skinner box method where you could isolate specific behaviors. It took a minute for some of the other trainers who had seen the older way, the previous way, and go, oh, okay, so this isn't a reinvention in a sense, and this isn't just recycling this. This is actually taking a premise, but then drastically improving it. To
Yeah,
make
but
it
that's it. Like those like we took that table that was now we look back on it and say, okay, that probably wasn't used in the most effective way.
Yeah.
And we've adjusted and made that same table be even more useful.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't use the table just for bike. I teach obedience on tackle. I teach the muscle conditioning. Like it's not just
Yeah.
retrieve.
My pet dog trainers use our bike bugs for tons of that training stuff.
Yeah. It's being, adaptable as a trainer to be also open-minded to a lot of different tools to use to accomplish that goal. So now to you, Mr. Nezbeth.
Now you've had an
Nice
hour
try.
to think about it.
What was the question? I think one thing that I've, in the last 5 years, I think I've changed, and I'm proud of, is the instruction style. So, of course, like the information, the techniques, all of that has changed and adjusted. But I think in the particular delivery of the information,
Man, that's a good one. I want you to get that one.
I think a lot of times when we get into, places where people maybe are unsure of what the information's about to be, or if they should, when we can give them the information in a way that makes people kind of laugh and enjoy it, and things kind of stick a little more. It breaks down a barrier, and they're able to really process. We remove kind of as quickly as possible, like that wall. And when people are laughing and having a good time and saying, "Hey, okay," like we did a seminar last week. Everything's like 1 week seminar. And we get there like on day one. It's a police seminar. Like, hey, has there been anyone had failed engagements or any problems that you guys want to work on? And it's crickets.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Then we get into it. So, okay, we move on.
3 hours
We
later.
start. We're breaking down the barrier. Everyone's laughing, and then we get like a really important moment where someone brought up one of their failed engagements, and we're able to actually walk through some of the steps and figure out what our best guess, because that's all the dogs can tell us with the words, what our best assumption is of what happened, and then kind of recreate it and potentially have solved the problem.
Very successful.
Yeah. But to me, it's again that delivery of the message, how it, and I'm pretty proud of myself. And actually, I spoke with Carlos about this probably another couple of seminars ago. And I
We've
said
been
to
around
him,
for like almost 3 weeks now. It's just hard to.
I said to him, I was like, hey man, like, he's like, oh, so how do we always kind of debrief after we do our things. And I was like, bro, between the first seminar we did together years ago to this, where your instruction style has improved drastically. Your ability to give information and analogies that make things stick. To me, that's what it doesn't, if we come here or come to a seminar for 3 days and the dogs do great, and then we leave and they go back to doing whatever they were doing before, it's pointless. But if we can leave you with actionable information and things that you remember and these little one-off sayings, I steal a saying from like Lilly all the time. Yeah, that dog needs church music.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that one needs heavy metal. That one needs church music, right? Just those little kind of things that make sense, and it lets people have those light bulb moments, almost like little mantras for them to repeat when they're working their dogs.
That's exactly what I tell them. If you take anything back, take this little.
And that for me, I think is like leaps and bounds where I think the biggest changes.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback on that, like you think about the law enforcement sector and military sector, both of those realms, those guys have gotten throughout their career a pretty similar type of instruction. And not much of it has been like, hey, you should ask questions and ask why.
They always get whack-a-mole.
Exactly. So that's why I try to start whenever I get my chance to speak. Hey man, we're not here to tell you what you're doing sucks. We are like I ask questions so much, because once you get that first cat to ask the question, the floodgates open. But all you got to do is get one. And you can see one guy with those eyeballs and he's rolling around. I'll call him and be like, go ahead and say it. Because if you'll say it, 10 others are thinking it. And that way you get that ball rolling, and they're used to one way of instruction for the most part. And the way you guys do it, like, opens that up, and that cutting up, and never is anything Mike says serious. So it's always open laughter and drawing it out of guys.
And that's part of it. Like, so Michael and I, because obviously we're minorities and we get to break the social barrier with jokes, we get to make everyone comfortable, because in law enforcement and in the sports world, it's not that much different.
Right.
They're constantly under a magnifying glass where people are looking for the mistakes. Like in law enforcement, talk to law enforcement today versus 10 years ago. They will tell you all the stories of everything they've done. Law enforcement now doesn't say anything. They're just like, I'm falling for that. I'm not talking. Does that make sense? And in the sports world, it's pretty judgmental. You know what I mean? So people are constantly competing with each other. They're not nice about it. So we have to find a way. And like Mike said, like we were just talking about it, because you feel it in the energy in the room. Right? Like you feel when people are just like sleeping, or when you have people that are laughing, they're not touching their phones. You haven't seen somebody look at a phone the entire time. And if they are, they're taking notes or videoing you because they want to remember it. So whenever you have that vibe going, one, there's so much learning going on for everyone, including us, but it's so much fun to do.
It's also, it's not boring just standing here.
Exactly.
No, we got hit on a couple of things. So one of them is that institutionalized learning that came with the professional community. And like every single one of you just said, it didn't propagate the feelings to be able to ask questions. It's built on a rank, time and service kind of curriculum or mindset, I should say, where I know more than you because of my rank, or I know more than you because of my how long I've been doing it. So that doesn't create an environment for open engagement and conversation.
Or you're just learning.
Exactly. It's just repeat and rinse of what we did before. And when people like yourselves, we come into an area like this and we're kind of taken away from that. We're not tied down by those limitations. It does take usually a day or two, which the tough part is it's a 3-day seminar. It took a day and a half to get the walls down.
Now everything's open. See you next year.
Yeah, exactly. But the other part you hit on is what Michael Ellis said to me that really changed, which changes a lot of trainers, which is what you're doing right now. What we're all doing, all the traveling that we're doing, we're being exposed to dogs and teams in such a level of variety that you can't get when you're just working at one spot.
Well, that's we literally said it's like, okay, we could, and this is by no means a knock on anyone's
No.
particular experiences, but you can be a canine handler at a tiny agency with one dog. At that agency, that unit has one dog, and you've been the canine handler for 30 years.
Yeah.
So let's say you did maybe 3-4 dogs.
Yeah.
In 30 years, you have 30 years of experience, right? And there's absolute value that comes from there.
Yeah.
Or you can do 1 year traveling and
Yeah.
working with 1,000 dogs, different dogs.
Yeah.
There's also experience that comes there. Not to say that one is better than the other, but they're just two very different experiences.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And that piggybacks off another one I shared. I think I did it at Hold the Line, or I've done it a couple times actually, where I say, okay, I've got a canine handler in Butte, Montana. He's been a canine handler and trainer now for 30 years. He's pretty confident in his skills. He knows what he's doing. Who's better, him or that canine handler in LAPD who's been a handler for 3 years?
Yep. That's seen 400 deployments.
He's
got
on holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
constantly on
Yeah,
the
but it's not even, to me, I wouldn't even say one is better.
No,
It's
that's
just,
the
hey,
whole point.
that one from where was Butte?
Butte, Montana.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But, hey, Butte, Montana. I bet he's a better canine handler in Butte, Montana than the LAPD guy would be in Butte, Montana.
And that was my whole point. It's based off perspective.
Yeah.
But the problem that we run into today is the social media aspect,
Yes.
because the social media puts us all in the same playing field when we're really not.
Yes.
Yes,
and then we get grumpy grandpas.
Yes.
Lilley and Carlos.
It's
The
no,
film, like you and your jujitsu dog stuff now.
He wasn't going to say it, but like that, like the grumpy
Yeah.
cats like that, those are the guys that, well, I've been doing it for 30-year argument, gets the reply of, you can do it wrong for 30 years. Like,
Of
it
course.
sucks to hear it, but man, that is the truth. But if you're the cat that's been doing it for 30 years, it says, hey, unit guys, there's this seminar with these guys, go get it.
I'm giving you a quick just example of that. And we all know him. You guys know Rob Ramos.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that has handled a dog and as
Yeah.
many dogs as him. Sorry, Rob, we're throwing you under the bus. You are one.
Worked 14 dogs.
Oh yeah. They said, he told me when I was talking that his first dog was imported on Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Back when Jesus wore short pants.
But
Short britches.
so Robert's been doing this for longer than we've been alive.
Yeah.
Right. But he comes literally, I have multiple phone calls from him for, hey, I'm with this my training group right now. Hey, what do you think? How would you deal with a dog that's doing this?
Yeah.
And and there's the guy that's forgotten more than
There's a vast difference from that mindset to the fishbowl. I'm the biggest fish in it, and nobody's getting out of it. That's what runs handlers off, man. Good handlers get out of units.
But I think it also comes when you get out there. You realize how much you don't know.
Oh,
Right? Because I thought I used to work a lot of dogs until I hit the road.
Yeah.
Or until I saw Michael's schedule. Right? And that's when you realize, if I thought 5 years ago that what I'm doing today, working 1,000 to 1,500 dogs a year through a pretty heavy travel schedule, well, who else is out there? Because there's someone doing more than me.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever you think you're doing, that's a lot. Trust me, there's someone out there doing something that you don't know about, and maybe you'll find that one day. Maybe, right? So I always like to tell everyone, you might have worked in X special forces or doing whatever.
Yeah.
There's someone on there better than you.
I think I just want to quickly circle back to that little passion thing.
Yeah.
We were just in New York, down there doing a seminar, and there was a kid there that we were in northern, out upstate New York.
Yeah.
There was a
Buffalo area.
area. There was a guy there that took a bus, public transit, took a bus
In the train.
and then from the bus to the train, then from the train to another bus, and then figured his way out to get to the hotel with a dog in a crate in a Dakota kennel, his suitcase and his suit bag
And
by himself.
Suitcase.
Oh,
the dog on the
And I was like, hey, I don't care who this kid is, how bad his dog is, how good his dog is, bro. are always welcome
Yeah.
to come and train with me
Yep.
anytime you want, because
Yeah.
that's the like passion's not bad. Like,
No.
that passion is good.
Absolutely.
Like that fire is there,
Yep.
and like and on top of all that, bro, his dog was actually amazing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, in the attitude. So that's the difference. He was sitting there going through all those hardships. Also, his grandfather had just had a medical emergency a couple days ago, and he lives with them, right? So the sacrifices he went, he wanted to be there. There were people there getting paid that
Yeah.
did not care about it,
Yeah.
and they were getting paid to be there.
Yeah, he came in, smile on his face, hand up. I mean, who needs to ask questions? Everyone's like this. He's like,
First
real
question.
quick, first question, and good questions. You know, so like, to me, that's I look at it, like we get to travel and we get to do all these things, and as soon as I start like getting a little tired, a little burnt out, like they've all
You
been.
see that cat.
I see that kid, and I'm like, bro, back to it. We
Yeah.
got to do this. Like it, and it like gives you that energy, you know, that,
Yeah.
that you need. So like passion and like genuine passion is amazing and contagious.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
it fuels all those around you.
Oh yeah, I can. It's a great point to share with someone else's passion can reinvigorate us.
100%.
Yeah.
That kid did it for me. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
For
100%.
the whole weekend, me and Carlos, we're just talking about this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
And I would say on that, like to that guy that has that, don't let it be stifled.
No,
Like
And,
don't
and people
let it
will try to snuff it.
sure.
Absolutely.
because it outshines them in some
Yeah.
way, and they don't want to let that person.
I look back at my first dog and I'd still be there.
Yep.
Like I'd still be working that dog at that agency and be happy about it.
Mhm.
But I just wasn't gonna be stifled in it. You know what I mean? I wanted to have the best, be the best, and get a dog to a point where we're functioning highly. So that's all I'll say on that point.
Yeah.
Just don't let it be put out, you know.
Yeah.
So this brings me to this one. How have you guys learned to share information that's just enough? That's, and this has been, I still try my best to learn the skill. I say, because back to that, I don't be using the passion word again. You want to share all the information you have in your head, right?
Yeah.
You want to like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. And because you're excited about it,
Yeah.
and you want to share that knowledge with those. And then as we've all traveled, I know you've seen it where you're sitting there and you see the audience is just like, the information overload is happening.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things happening. One, putting out the information at the right pace.
Mhm.
And then how have you guys dealt with putting out the information so they know what to do with it? Because sometimes that's the other part of the equation is they can take it off, but there's no point of reference yet of how to apply that.
Yeah.
In the seminars that you guys probably do a lot of, that encompasses a lot in the law enforcement community is there's lots of information thrown at people, but there's no point of reference yet of how to put that.
Yeah. I think like one of the things, and like to even add on top of that, like particularly with what me and Carlos do, that information kind of flow needs to be very precise to the audience that you're working with, because it can be the point where we give people enough information to become dangerous.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So we have to be able to, one, read the audience that we're working with. And part of that is getting the questions that we're getting.
Mhm.
Hey, how much are you taking in this information? The other thing is what's unique about it. Again, in detection, there's stressors for sure. In your tracking, there's stressors for sure. But when you're trying to learn how to decoy,
Yeah.
and a dog is biting you,
Yeah.
and it's one of the first few times that you've been bit by a dog. Hey,
Yeah.
we could sit down for 3 months in a class
Yeah.
and just go over these very particular things. When that dog's
You're
teeth
out.
touch the suit,
Yeah.
adrenaline dump happens and you're zombie mode.
Yeah.
Right. So figuring out a lot of times it's like, hey, let's safely get as many reps in as we can to get rid of
out of the way.
that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a
Everything's so
dog fighting me.
fast.
And then we'll move on and try to again read the crowd. We start usually with like a very basic fundamentals, and then adjust accordingly as we have a few days with the crowd and depending on who it is, and go from there. So my answer would be trying to read the crowd to the best of your ability.
I think like I only did it starting a PowerPoint because he made me. Nezbeth made me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I hate PowerPoints. They're dumb. They put cops to sleep.
Yeah.
And so, but the only way I could keep myself on track and make sure I stuck to those key points was through that PowerPoint. The other thing on, like you asked, how have you learned to dispense that so it's not so much? I haven't. I honestly haven't. Like, I try, and I struggle with these guys. I want to give as much as I can so they feel like they've gotten it, but also don't want that information overload. But I will say the PowerPoint, having that as that beginning section really helps with that, to be able to stay on that, because my brain's super jacked up. So it'll go all over the place. So having that, I think was a big help.
And not to bump in, but like one of the other things that I think helps a lot as well is like I have a pretty active YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So there's enough input. Like if someone's still not really getting a concept,
Go
like, hey, check this video out. Or hey,
Yes.
Carlos made a video about this.
That's
Check like really good. Or camera, you know, and kind of pushing them in that way. A lot of times I see that helps. Like,
Right.
oh, I'll bring it all together.
For me, it's something that there's two sides to that. Okay. And one is like, we need to make sure that people are getting the information they need, because like you said, more for dogs in bite work and stuff like that, they can get in trouble. But I think sometimes they can go too far the other way, where trainers think, well, you're never going to get this.
Yes.
Right. And for me, it's like, if you got it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Sure. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what I do is I like to put and I stole this from Michael Nezbeth, an actionable plan that we're going to send them home with.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we were going to be able to accomplish here. And one of the information I was able to give you to this point. But this is what you do after this.
Yeah.
And like he said, videos for references. We always tell everyone, reach out through social media, send me videos. I can help you through it. But I feel like, I try to be honest. If I understood, they can also get it.
Yeah, it's not to come from like a pretentious.
Exactly.
Like, well, you minions can't understand.
Yeah, and sometimes, and I'll pick on your subject in detection. Detection is pumping out science to a point that leash holders do not want to keep up with.
Right.
Yes.
Because we chose to be leash holders, so we did not have to deal with science.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I see so many people so focused in, I want to know the latest terms, use the latest this, the latest that, when just go learn to do the basics first before you worry about this extreme science that very few people actually comprehend.
Yeah.
Because I've had the opportunity to be out in circles where people, very brilliant people, are talking, and it's so obvious to me that I'm getting nothing from this conversation because it's above me. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm writing every book they're referencing down, every term they're using that I don't understand. I'm writing all of this down so I can go teach myself. But sometimes I like to tell handlers, they're telling me, no, because in detection, this new term, this came out, this new science, so-and-so put this new academy, and it's hours of lectures. I'm like, listen, I feel like you need to go train your dog a little more.
Yeah.
You know,
we did another seminar, and one of the agencies, we were doing some detection stuff, and we put out whatever their target owners were, and one of the other agencies that were there were worried because it wasn't their target owner that was out, and then they didn't end up running the dogs because it was. And I'm like, I know where you're coming from, but I think it's one of those, and this is not a knock at them. It's just an example to me of like informational. We need to keep everything so totally sanitary and purest form and all. And I was like, yeah, because you've heard this, that kind of talk, but it's like they like cherry pick very particular points of discussions and not. So I think that's also
you hit the nail. So as you guys know, I was a huge proponent of all the science stuff for a long time, and that was helpful. I was super excited that there was now this information that maybe backed up some of my beliefs or my experiences that I went through as a detection dog handler. Back to Carlos's point a little ago, part of me also to prove my old mentors wrong. Like, see, but yes. And now, after some years of being around the scientists and going through their system and all of that kind of stuff, I actually have a video, and I don't know if it will be out by the time this comes out. It might be. And in that video, I say, stop worrying about the science so much and just work your dog.
Yep.
Because just like you mentioned, I get calls because once I made myself kind of like this conduit piece between the science world and the dog world, it put me in a position where all of a sudden, then you guys do it too. People go, "Oh, ask Cameron because he's more familiar with that."
Oh, I absolutely. I mean, so when this owner is doing this,
Okay, go to
ask
Cameron.
Cameron.
So I would get some weird, not, I won't say weird's not the right word, but just really particular questions. Like, what happens with odor when it's 30,000 feet in the air? How should I work with my dog? And I'm like, wait,
to that, you know what would be the first question that I will ask? Do you know what your dog looks like when he's in odor?
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense?
yeah. So I, with all of these weird conditions that these people would throw at me, I started realizing the point that you were making was they were over sciencing everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was prohibiting them from doing the first job they have,
Yeah.
which is work your dog.
And on top of that, I've been I've progressed this forward unintentionally at times with my own trainers and my own programs, because I kind of try and in the initial stages beat over their head.
Yeah.
Understand learning theories, understand this, understand, so they can become, because of my instructions, hyper fixated on this stuff and not the feel part of dog training. And then they get, okay, so we're using opera conditioning, but I'm classically conditioning this marker, and then it's the dog sit.
Yeah.
Are you teaching him to sit?
Exactly.
Like, let's also not get away so far removed, like pendulum swing, right? We need to understand these things, but we're still dog trainers.
And some of us are just dog handlers.
Yeah.
And we have to master that skill so that way we can truly understand some of these other more complex things. Because again, the more that we all around each other, what do we all agree on right now? We don't know everything. And how much there is still to learn.
Yeah.
And though in some cases, if you compare what we've been through and the things that we've learned to others, it seems like, oh my gosh, look at those guys. They know so much. And we're the first to tell you we know some stuff, but there's a shit ton we don't know.
And I tell people, I'm like, hey, we're blessed in that we've had the opportunity to be able to travel so much and train with so many different people that we just have a larger sample size.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not that we're any better of trainers than the next person.
And that's why I say, like I was saying it today, I have no scientific evidence to prove why I'm saying this, but I've done it with 1,000 dogs, and
then watch this stuff.
Exactly.
So that's what I was talking about. Sterile information. Sometimes I don't have the why, and two things are going to happen. We're going to figure it out together, or I'm going to ask for help from someone who has the why.
Yeah.
And I tell my client, my people who are learning from me, clients that I'm working with, my trainers at home, my biggest asset in dog training is not my memory, it's my cell phone, because I can call you guys.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And constantly, like, for example, let's talk about Michelle, right? One of the nerds in the scientific world, in the K9s.
Oh, you call her a nerd?
Just part of the nerd herd.
Yes, exactly. So people, a lot of times, the information she puts out is very complex, right? It can be very complex. You know what I do? I call her and ask her, hey, can you break that down for me?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't need to be the scientist understanding that. I need to understand what I need to apply it to this dog.
With Michelle, we were at a seminar. We did one, and she was instructing, and I sat down. She asked us, so what did you think? And I was like, hey, it was really good. But for my best interest, could you just dumb it down a little bit? And then she looked at me and she said, I did dumb it down.
That is the dumb.
That is the dumb down. I'm like, okay, well.
Get down and get right.
Draw pictures.
And it's so, again, because that was, my course correction. I went through the period of time where I was like, science is awesome, all these different things I was enjoying, and I wanted to share that with everybody. And then you kind of realize, as the positions that we're in as instructors, we also have to course correct, because without, we're all, that's what I like about all of us. We're humble in nature, that we don't want to think of ourselves as having sometimes the influence that we do. I know I hate it. I don't. It's not comfortable for me. It's probably the best way to say it. I'm not comfortable with feeling that I'm in that position. But every now and then, someone's got to remind me that I do have a responsibility because of the platform or because of the information I share. That though you may not like it and don't want to view yourself that way, there is a responsibility that comes from where we're at. And how can you make sure that your message adapts to, because like I said, I in certain cases for certain people, I kicked off a really strong scientific aspect for them. And they, like you said, people got wrapped up in terms and as I did too.
And you're responsible for that, right? I think the asset that helps you or helps me be with the information that I'm trying to pass forward, how accurate I am with what I'm doing, is my friends.
Yeah.
Right. If I know if I'm doing something that Carlos doesn't agree with or thinks that it's wrong, he's gonna say, "Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
I don't think that's right."
Yeah.
And I'll do the exact same for him. I'll do the exact same for him.
Yeah.
And the same for you. Like it'll continue to grow. I think that's what keeps you honest,
Yeah.
right? It keeps you on your toes and says, "Hey, well, I don't." And if I can't explain it, and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? There's been countless things that I've done. Like, yeah, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. What am I thinking?" Right?
One of the best things I've learned to say, especially the past few years, is I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you know my favorite dog training answer?
What?
It depends.
Yeah.
He's
the king of it depends.
It depends.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Like if you, that's 99% of the answers. Well, hey, my dog's doing da 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 da. So should I do this? Well, it depends.
Maybe.
But let's go back to how it started. You know, it's always one sentence question that requires 3 book of
That's a
answers.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right, Cam, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Everyone, welcome to Michael Nezbeth, talking set. All right. Random, just one-off question. I want to ask everyone. If you could train with a dog trainer that you haven't worked with yet, who would that be?
Bob Bailey.
Bob Bailey.
Only because dogs wasn't his primary thing, but he had such an influence in the dog world. And the short time I got with him just in Arkansas, Simon brought him out to the seminar out there. And that was one of the best experiences I got to have, was just sitting there listening to him talk and sitting back going, holy shit, how much that guy had done. 2, how much is in his head that I haven't even remotely tapped into as possibilities. And I'll add one more because I think I'll get a chance to do it, is Dr. Stuart Hilliard. Because he's another one that you guys might remember. We talked about the other day, but remember those K9 training system videos?
Yep.
You know, remember he was one of the first ones wearing with his Monroe suits, or whatever it was, his first ring suits that existed. But he's been off the radar for like 20 something years now. He's just been in Lackland doing just overseeing the military. The military's been moving him in different positions. He kind of just either he's over the breeding program for like a year, but he becomes over training, then he goes over procurement. Anyway, he's within some years of retirement. And both Michael Ellis and I want to pull him out because the dog world, there's so much that he has. He's such an academic, but also a natural dog guy. So he is the mix of both worlds, but now I'm getting to know him. And I see even his own internal struggle of knowing so much, but also just being a dog person. He feels pressure about teaching. And someone, to me, I'm like, you're a master at this. How could you feel pressure? But just to have somebody like that to sit next to them watching dogs work.
Yeah.
I just want to sit back, not say a word, and just listen to what goes off. Like what do they
watch those process things?
Yes.
Those are the people that he feels pressure about teaching.
Yes.
That means that he should be teaching. Like that's how I look at politics. Like, you don't want to be a politic?
You should be.
You probably should be the politician. That's what that looks like.
Yeah. Great question. So go on.
All right, let's see, Mike.
Honestly, I'm gonna throw a wrench in. I would say I would rather go, if I could, like pick a handful of agencies ranging across the US and just go sit on a training day. You know what I mean? Not just like one guy that's got, like I would rather just go sit in on how it's done across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see like, where are these guys working? What are these guys' issues and because like as soon as I met Gooseby, I realized that South Florida cop is a drastic difference from an LA cop.
Yeah.
And I honestly never thought of that drastic of a difference. Oh my God, my mind was blown, So, but if I had to pick like one trainer, I really think like Michael Ellis would be one I would just love to be a fly on the wall.
When are you gonna have Michael Ellis?
Yeah.
Why are you keeping him?
Yeah, keeping him hostage. Yeah, definitely don't worry. That is in the works with some really cool stuff, and I've already hinted to you guys about what we're gonna do. But no, I just from your perspective, believe me, me and you were talking a little bit about the fangirling, or when we see somebody, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't even get to train with this person or I'm around this person.
Yeah.
Man, that was one of those moments for me. It is like I had to pinch myself more than a few times to go, oh my God, I'm sitting here. People would pay thousands of dollars to get to do what I'm doing right now.
That was when I walked out of the hotel and, oh, you were there.
Yeah.
And Pat Nolan.
Yes.
This is Pat Nolan.
Yeah.
I was like, hey.
And that's go sit where he sat. That's and I know the people we're talking about, they're like we're talking. They're not comfortable with that kind of attention. But it's well deserved.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's one of the things that as we all recognize with Michael Ellis is his biggest talent is how he can explain things to people to understand.
Yeah.
And that's an art form. So, it's not even his first language. But it was, I sit back because to give a small segue story to what you're saying, he never uses PowerPoint. Never. And I looked at him, I'm like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
How do you remember where to be at in your speaking? Like, you're speaking this topic, and he goes through every bullet point that would be on a PowerPoint, but it's in his head.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just, he wrote it out years ago. His wife's got a master's degree in education. So she helped him craft a system, and he's always stuck to it.
Yeah.
And he pushed it on me. He said, hey, look, what you want to do is start off with what you're going to talk about, then go into those points. Then at the end, recap what you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but start off with just the right number of things to teach. So don't try to go. He's like, the problem with PowerPoint ends up being is you can put 10 topics to talk about and you'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But if you're without the PowerPoint, you can only function off of say 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So he pushed me out of my PowerPoint. Yeah. So it was actually at Hold the Line. My first day there, I did my PowerPoint. And I hated internally how it felt, because now I had at that point had been around it for 2 months by myself, and being now back in that institutionalized training, being a seminar, I was like, the hippie in me was coming out. And I was like, fuck this PowerPoint. I was like, I hate this PowerPoint. I feel like I'm talking at people. I didn't want that feeling anymore. So the second day when my class went from first day I had 50 or 60 in there. The next day I had 16. So I was like, perfect. I'm going to wing it now. There's only 16 people in here. There's only 16 people. They say I was horrible at it. But no, I just put it up and said, here's the PowerPoint. But what do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah.
And that was so freeing for me, because it allowed, we all know our stuff, but I know I did. I had the PowerPoint as a crutch to keep me in line.
Yeah.
And that also
don't put too far off this way.
Yes. It takes one question, at least for me,
Take you
to
into
another
that
world. And then whenever I get done, I'm like, shit, where was I at?
Yeah. You know what you should do
100%.
instead of the PowerPoint? Bring this little machine. Every time you say something good.
Oh, what is that? Hold up. Oh, wait. I had the volume down. Hold on. Here we go. So that way everybody can hear it. That's going to be a great addition. So so that put me out of my comfort zone, and now I actually thrive. I prefer not to do. I put it up now just so I can reference things if I want to,
or there's a video I can pull up or something.
That's really what it is for me, is the videos.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when you bring something to the table and you may see those skeptical eyes in the crowd,
Yeah.
you like, that's the first thing mine has, is a video to say, here's the finished product. And then I really no longer see those skeptical eyes, because then they're like, okay, that looks like something I want to try to get to work out for me. So
Yep.
All right. Ask the next one.
Carlos.
So you already stole it. It's final on the first.
I got to do a seminar
Yeah,
with him, so
I know.
I'd be curious.
So I haven't had the opportunity to work with him, and something that really attracts me about what he does is, first of all, like, obviously the guy has been everywhere, but how he does the bird dog transfer to every, like, it's not just something he does for this, how he applies what he knows on everything.
Yeah.
Like this universal way of seeing what he does, like not just hyper focusing one like discipline, I guess. It's more applied to everything. And that's for me is when you really know stuff. When you can apply it to so many different things, right? And I guess I have another one too. It would be like helmet riser.
Yeah.
It's just 2 parts from him. Like, I know the teaching aspect, like how many people he had the opportunity to reach either through his books, writing methods, and just what he did drove like a whole generation of trainers.
Oh, yeah.
And up to this day, that book that was written however long ago, it's like a Bible to so many people.
For sure.
The ability to be able to put what you know to reach the masses like that.
that kind of influence.
Oh, that's so much bigger than dog training, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a big skill. So for me, I kind of getting more into the IPO stuff because there's so many different techniques and stuff that I like, and seeing it. Sure, it's as a sport, you might have taken a hit, and they have hard dogs get tested and things like that. But when you get to express your skills as a trainer, kind of more in an overall way, right? It's all there, the retrieve, tracking, different things that I like. And he did it with that. You know what I mean? He reached the masses and then affected a whole like generation of trainers of how they do things. My book.
Yeah.
He didn't go like us and talk to people in person.
And no internet.
Exactly. And then he'll translate it to so many. For me, like, I'm a foreigner, right? And to be able to, like, a foreigner had this influence to change the world in the way they see by using their techniques. So definitely, if I had to put like, Pat, if you're listening to this, I want to.
And I'll say, I mean, I've been lucky to really get to spend time with Pat, hang out with him, shoot the shit, nothing formalized. I think you guys might have seen, I know I shared on social media last year. It was at the American Tactical K9 Conference. It was one of those humbling moments where I'm working my dog in front of Pat, asking him like, "Hey, what do you see? What do you do?" Again, at first uncomfortable, but then totally like you guys like loving it. Like, I'm having Pat watch my dog.
Yeah.
So it's you're hitting a lot of that name and what he's done. There's so much, and I'll be honest, if you get a chance to actually not only do the training, but the bird, the falcon stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to get deeper into training, listen to him talk about falconry.
Yeah.
And how he changed as a trainer because of that. And same with Dr. Reiser. So I got this is like 1999. I was just in Germany. Yeah, rolling around Germany. You're like 8 years old, probably. I forget who I told the story to, but anyway, long story short was I was at a farm club in like some part of Germany, and it was Helmut Reiser and Bart Malone teaching together.
Wow.
And it was just one of those surreal moments of time now, because look at where they were both at.
So
Bart was still kind of cutting his teeth as an instructor. He was struggling with it in this one client with her German Shepherd. He was using the e-collar, and Helmut was there watching. This is where I learned about conflict on purpose versus conflict on accident. And what his point was, so Bart was working the collar with this girl's German Shepherd, and he won the dog in a fixed position, and to each cycle of biting, so the dog would bite out the sleeve and then get into a heel position, and then the decoy would pick up the sleeve and put it on. So what the cycle was happening was dog would bite, let go of the sleeve, get into position, and the girl would kick the sleeve out to the decoy. Well, what do you think that did to the dog? Activate the dog. So Bart was kind of focusing on what he was trying to watch the decoy and do the thing. Helmut stopped and said, "Hey, everybody, I want to talk about what's happening here." He goes, so there's conflict on purpose, which is I'm setting something up to train. So I want the dog to learn from. So I cause the conflict. They learn something in this direction. Then there's conflict on accident, which is what's happening now. The handler is causing the dog to get corrected because the handler in her mind was thinking, I've got to get the sleeve to the decoy, and not understanding that that was, like you just said, kicking the dog into activation and getting now corrected. Not fair.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, that's 23 to 4 years ago. I've never forgot that.
Yeah.
I sat there and went, holy shit, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I've ever since then tried to remind myself, even though how horrible I can do it at times, is to not do so much conflict by accident and cause dogs unfair corrections or unfair frustration
Yeah.
because I fail to understand how I was doing.
We always tell people like, wait, what are we actually trying to train them?
Yeah.
Are we working on outs? Or are we working on the bite development?
Working ins, working
Are we
out.
working ins or outies? Like,
Yeah.
what's the deal here, right? And a lot of times we get caught because our humans are we like to micromanage things.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I didn't let his heel when he was coming in, but we're not working obedience in bite work,
Yes.
right? So that's definitely a big lesson that I have. And I'm lucky that I learned from my own mistakes and from seeing other people do it. So you get both ends of the picture because I cannot judge them for doing it because I did it too.
Yeah.
So I know how you got there. So that's one of the big things that when we're teaching, we tell people, I've been where you're at.
Yeah.
So I know how you can. I'm not going to judge you for being that frustrated because I also got that frustrated. I know how easily you can get there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easy not to judge because it happened to me too.
And
Yeah,
I think
so-
that's a key in good instructing is relating to them,
Sure.
not coming from.
A good instructor has good empathy.
Right.
Not standing on your soapbox.
Exactly. Because we tell them all the time, we are giving this info because we did it wrong a lot.
Exactly.
But it's recognizing the wrong, figuring out how to make it right, and then hand that off in a digestible.
It's one of my favorite things when I'm decoying and I tell somebody, don't put your hand there. And they're like, why? And I show them a scar.
Exactly.
This is why.
Yeah.
You don't put your hand there, right?
That's why I don't sweep legs anymore.
So it's something that and one of my biggest pet peeves, and happens a lot in fight work, when decoys kind of belittle the handlers because they don't know as much. And it's like, why are you questioning me? Listen, if you're not good enough to explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't know yourself, right? So be that inviting person that opens the forum for mistakes.
Yeah.
Be that guy that makes it so, that gal that whenever they're so understanding and they're non-judgmental, that's why we add so many jokes, because we make ourselves vulnerable by doing that, right? And people feel like, you know what? I feel comfortable messing up here. This is a good place to make a mistake. And that's huge. If people are not willing to fail in front of you,
Yes.
you're never going to be able to help them.
Yeah. Avoiding failure doesn't help growth.
No.
It makes failure inevitable.
Exactly.
That's-
The dog in
100%, which is like you said, back to when canine teams are afraid to train in front of each other or use each other's decoy or equipment or odors or whatever, you're inhibiting yourself. You should embrace, if I'm going to fail, let's fail in this environment where I'm safe.
That's right.
Put my ego aside.
Here's the time to fail.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, you can fail in front of us, but you can fail in front of the world.
Yeah.
Because they're going to put you a Fox News tonight.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And everybody will see you do it wrong.
Yep.
Right? So let's do it with the people who will catch you and not let you fall so hard and fail here in front of us. But if people are failing and we're making fun of them, or if we're not, they get in trouble for it, nobody's going to feel comfortable.
Well, that's why I try to push on guys like canine training nights should not be a cookout, a BS session. We'll go run some odor and then, hey, you guys have a good night. It should be, what did we do wrong this week? What call did we get smoked on? And then let's run through it
Absolutely.
5 times each before we do it right here so that we can't get it wrong.
Exactly. I think, and on top of that, repeating those failures, but repeating them in a way that we're using them as training moments, and not just saying, "Hey, we failed this big situation," but breaking them down so we can work through and learn through where the exact failures happen.
Yeah.
I think is the bread and butter for sure.
We have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah, that was a good group of trainers, you guys, man.
So what's your list? Who's on your list?
You guys, we got two.
Everybody did too. So
I don't know.
just do one. Do one.
Do one.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can't do one that's been used already.
No, it's all right. I have mine already. You guys not the same as your guys. My one, who I would like to train with that I haven't had the opportunity to train with, and I'm sure we're gonna get the opportunity to train soon together.
Yeah.
Would be Armin Winkler.
Nice. Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
my grumpy grandpa.
And you talked about it already. Like you guys have, he's now embraced social media, got on there and has done his thing and sharing information. So it's good that that's the opening part, where he's now.
I would love to train with him because I think again he's one of those guys that has a lot of experience. He's definitely been around the block,
Oh, for
but
sure.
we there's certain things that we disagree on,
Uh-huh.
and that's okay.
That's
That's
absolutely
totally okay. I would like to get together with him and see how he does, what he does, and show him some of the stuff that we do. And I think it would be cool.
No, that's a great choice too. It's a like I said, a wealth of wisdom. So, because I know he has to go here real soon. Last thing I have is how important is it that you guys try to share the point being of fundamentals is what I'm getting at. So, like frequently, to give you premise what I'm talking about, like when I go travel do detection, I'll have people that, hey, I want to do this, 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 and this, and they have their goals, and then I see when we start doing things, there's some significant gaps at the fundamental stage. So I have to spend a lot of time doing fundamentals let's say at a seminar or at an event. And I know that's not exactly where they want to be, but after the few days are done, they're like, ooh, okay, I'm glad we actually did do that.
Yeah.
Do you see that same thing in what both of you guys do?
I absolutely think that behavior is behavior is behavior.
Yeah.
And I also am a big avid believer in like really advanced complex behaviors are just really good fundamental behaviors. So
it should be how it is.
Yeah, whether it's you're doing detection, bite work, tracking, building searches, articles, like whatever it is you're doing, they're really good dogs and really good dog teams.
Yeah.
Are teams that are really strong in their fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we see it all the time. Everyone wants, and me and Carlos joke about it pretty much every seminar we do.
Yeah.
He's like, hey guys, sorry, but you guys missed out. Next week is the super sexy jumping through fire.
Yes.
And explosives. But right now we're just going to work on keeping a dog safe and reinforcing the behaviors that we want to reinforce.
Let's make sure your dog can let go.
Yeah. Let's work on these
Yeah, further. Let's see if your dog can go in.
Yes.
Before he wants to get out.
Yes.
And it's, to me, that's what, and I've had the opportunity, all of us has kind of had the opportunity to work with some really good dog teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And
when you look
the
at
difference is just, hey, usually they have a lot more time than they can dedicate to training.
Yeah.
And they just spend that time systematically training fundamental things.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's like, oh, the forward down is really, it's a down in front of you. Like, it's a down. Like, we got board and trained dogs that could do that.
Yeah.
Right? So but it's putting in the time and the reps and really making sure your fundamentals are there.
Yeah.
Derby.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people come to us, and it happens a lot in bike work, that they think their dogs are somewhere.
Yes.
And it's our job to give them the reality pie of they're not, right? And that's another goes back to the tactical way that you say things and how you deliver that message.
Yes.
Because my way of doing it, I feel like, and I know we share a lot, all of us here, is show them.
Yeah.
Let them, there's no way that I can convince you that your dog is not ready until you see it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to fulfill my ego, because actually it's one of the hardest things that we do.
We hate doing it.
We
I
hate
hate
doing
it.
it. But I can show you, hey, maybe your dog is not ready for a suit. Maybe let's put him on a sleeve. Maybe your dog is not ready for the 6 turn track that of aging the track. Maybe we can work in 10 feet and we can master that way better. And they're like, no, I got it. Okay, show me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's having that ability of let it be their idea.
Self-discovery.
Yeah, maybe we should go back and focus on this better, right? And a lot of times, like, I always love it when Michael's daughter comes with us. Yeah. Because there's people that want to do all this super advanced stuff, but their basics are not there. And then a 10-year-old walks in with a Malinois that's about that life too. It's not just a dog, he's about it. But the basics are, there's nothing flashy going on, just basics.
Yep.
Doing
Yeah.
all perfect,
That's right.
right? And then you can hear the crowd go silent. Nothing funny happened. There was no bombs, smoke grenades, nothing fancy. Just very harmonious obedience or some dog work happened, right?
Yeah.
And so there's multiple ways that we can portray it, but I always tell people foundations are a scaffold.
Yes.
It's like building scaffold. Don't wait until you're on the 10th floor to figure out that your first floor was cracked.
Right.
Yep.
Because it's gonna be painful for you.
Because figure it out.
Because
Because
you're going back there anyhow.
You're going down.
That's where you're going.
That's what I said. You can figure it out when you get to your second story, that maybe we need to go back to the first level and strengthen some things before we can continue to build on that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to find out when you're almost
It's
to
going to
the
take
end.
you all the way to the scene of the
Yeah.
crash.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's I'm glad that what I go through in detection is the exact same thing that you guys go through in the bite work, where they people want to come in and they want to do what I call the brass ring stuff.
Mhm.
I want to go do the fancy thing. I want to, like in your guys' world, can I bite somebody in a bite suit that's on fire? It's not like, okay, can they just bite?
Not with us, but we know a guy.
Yeah. I think I know too. And in detection, I have the same thing. They want to like have like this super complex problem, and then they're like, I want to do this. I'm like, but
Do a blank search.
Yeah. And then to the other part too, with that stuff, I'm a big fan of asking people, when are you gonna use that in the actual real life
Sure.
work?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm all for preparing the dogs above for what they're gonna be seeing in the real life.
Yeah.
But
Get
to a
there.
point.
Yes.
And it needs to be relatable.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
train
Yeah.
for above what you should see operationally.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to draw
Yes.
the parallels.
Yeah.
So why, hey,
Exactly.
operationally,
Yeah.
maybe the most time your dog will ever bite
Yeah.
or search will be 3 minutes. Okay, well, guess what? In training,
Yeah.
we're gonna be searching for 15 minutes. Like, we're gonna be searching for 12.
Yeah.
So that's those we can draw the parallels when it comes to like, let's scuba diving bites or whatever we're doing. It's not,
Now, do you see the same thing in tracking too?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the ways I have one of the things I've implemented to kind of combat it and not even give them the chance to say, this is what I want to do, is right after my PowerPoint, I say, you lay your own trap, 100, 200 yards, and you run. Nothing crazy, just a normal training day trap. And that way we can see. And like you said, that it's right out there in the open.
Show me.
And so then when they finish, we come back and do a debrief and we have a serious, tactful conversation about, okay, what are the holes? And every time there's the few that, just kill it. But then there are the mass majority that there are things to pick apart. And I preach it all the time that we should be striving for perfection. Because when that helicopter's above your head and all eyes are on you and it's 3 a.m. in the middle of the most contaminated area you've been in, if training is good, you're going to be really crappy in that deployment. Sure. If training is perfection and you've ran them through to make sure every aspect is rock solid, that deployment will be good.
And the only way to get to perfection is getting from the foundation.
That's right. And when you show those holes, I didn't have anything to do with it. You laid your normal training track, you handled them. I'd say do whatever you normally do. If you want to drag a shirt behind you, or I don't care what, whatever you do, because if I say do it this way, guaranteed it's going to be, it's because I did it that way.
Yeah.
So I say, let's do it the way you do it. Then we pick those things that we're going to work on. And that's the luxury I think I have, is that I'm going to work every dog.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a ton of work. And by 40 something, I'll probably be like, I'm not doing it anymore. But like today, I had a lot of dogs that have never tried. And then I had 2 dogs that I saw a year ago that I said, have you been keeping up? Oh yeah, rock solid. I put them through it. We ran a track and they did great.
I think there's like one thing that, not to interrupt you, but I find like common threat, like detection and tracking. To me, they're both nose work, nose exercise. Something that I noticed that you do, Cameron, that Mike does with his detection is, as soon as viably possible, moving the dogs
Yeah.
from sterile, low distraction areas into what would be real world
Right.
operational
Right.
settings.
And look at that field at your house. Like, go back to when you first were working your dog and tracking. Like, you've got these big fields, everybody spread way out, don't contaminate. How big is that field we were using with the mode trains? You know what I mean? An
Maybe
acre.
an acre.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been a gazillion dogs crisscross because they need to see it pretty quickly right off the bat.
Yeah.
And get, take those training wheels off and let's get rolling.
But what you hit on is one of the things I share now more frequently is that habituated learning and how habituated learning prevents mental flexibility. Because for the detection side, it's doing the boxes too long, doing the brick wall too long, doing the wheel or whatever the foundational thing is. They've done it so much
That they can't transition.
they can't transition it. Even if I put odor
We
in
see
that,
that bite work with
Mhm.
particularly with like a dog that was being raised for sport work.
Right.
That now is becoming potentially a police dog.
Right.
And we say, hey, bring him inside this school. Let's do some bite work. No, I don't do bite work inside buildings. I do them in fields.
Yep.
Right. And same kind of ordeal.
But yeah, that's true. That's actually a great point. So very last thing, and we're done. How often do you guys like or want or recommend using video for training? Like filming what you're doing to learn from it in some way. Or
All the 120%.
Yeah.
I think if you can film what you're doing, you can frame by frame go back through whatever discipline you're in, whatever profile you're in, and watch where mistakes happen, things that you missed. I think it's worth its weight in gold.
Oh,
I'm horrible at it.
I'm
horrible at it, man. I'm so
How do you, for the times that you guys have used it in tracking, how have you liked it?
Great. My problem is that I have a dog that's killing it, and I'm like, this would be great content. Pull the camera out, and the dog thinks it's a gun pointed at his head, and then he does horrible. So, and it's happened enough to me where I'm like,
You put your GoPro.
So here's what I'll tell you exactly what someone told me, because I used to try to catch the perfect moment all the time. I thought that was the way you did it.
Catch everything.
No, just film. The guy said, just put a camera on, leave it on all the time. Sure, you're going to dump, let's say 85% of the footage, but you're finally going to catch those moments, and they couldn't be more right. So, case in point, I'm definitely, and I recommend it now, especially detection, because there's so many little nuances, just like in bike, everything has it. And that's what can capture it sometimes.
And for me, even for my pet clients, right?
Yeah.
I tell them, video yourself doing this and send it. Tell me whatever you think is the issue. And then I'm like, that's not the problem. It's this here. And I'm able to pinpoint the specific moment when it happened. And they're like, I didn't even saw that, right? But the camera did.
Because you can take that video, upload it into AI, and it'll tell you how to fix it.
There's no joke. There's actually a guy named York Schultz. If you want to look him up, he's on Facebook. He uses cameras and AI to train the dog.
I've seen the
he puts the dots there, and the dog has. Oh man, that's super cool. I enjoy. Like he follows.
Hey Jeff, no, hey, blank out that name. We're gonna be out of work, right?
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna edit this section.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to do this little jam session, as like we call it now. Just sharing information and being real. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that we have to keep pushing forward in our industry is to accept our faults. We said already earlier. At the same time, have accountability and accept our responsibility for what we do and how we do it. And then just be good stewards of the information from those that we learn from, and then pass it on and keep seeking that desire to keep learning, that we can never get comfortable with that, and as we get better and better, it's just such an important thing to keep focus on. Like, still don't know, I question sometimes things that I've definitely thought I learned. I'm like, okay, is this really operant conditioning, or am I, is that, how, what if it's this, so
I just always I'd say, as an industry, as as a group of trainers, whatever we want to call ourselves, let's just leave the place better than we found it.
Right.
But let's just make that a common goal. I don't want to be better than you. I just want the place we all share to be better than what we found it.
And I would say too, don't discount the dogs in that learning situation. Like, we don't have to go to other trainers to learn from the animals we're working with too, because they can teach us a lot if we just pay attention. So don't discount them from the situation.
That's a big one. So again, I appreciate you guys. I will, of
thanks for
course,
having
as,
us. Yeah,
as
thank
usual, share you guys' contact info for the people in my world that may or may not have known you guys. I'm sure most of them do, but just because we always want to be there available and we're ready to help people when they ask for it. So with that said, everybody, that is this episode of K9s Talking Sense, where it's okay to be nosy.